I never thought I'd see my entire neighborhood thrown into chaos because of one forged signature, but that's exactly what happened. One moment, I was sipping my morning coffee on the porch of my lakeside cabin, the only piece of heaven I had left after losing my wife, and the next, I was staring at a map with a giant red stamp declaring that my land, my home, my memories had been approved for development, without my permission, without my knowledge, just gone. When I asked why my property was on that map, Karen, the HOA president, smirked like she owned the place. She was flanked by some slick realtor named Rick, waving his hands like he was pitching beachfront condos in Florida. They had paperwork maps, official-looking seals, the whole circus. Only problem was the signature at the bottom of their contract wasn't mine. Not even close. I've been signing my name the same way since the Reagan administration, and this looked like a kid traced it with a crayon. I told them flat out that's not my signature. But they didn't back down. Karen crossed her arms and told me I had 24 hours to make arrangements. 24 hours to walk away from the only place that still felt like home. And then Rick leaned in his fake salesman smile, melting into something darker, and warned me about how expensive legal battles can get. It wasn't a suggestion, it was a threat. I stood there with my arms folded, pretending to be the tired old man they thought I was. Inside, though, I was boiling. They saw a widower 60 years old, living alone by the lake. Easy target, right? But what they didn't know was that I spent 2 decades in the Air Force keeping multi-million-dollar aircraft from falling out of the sky. You don't survive that career without learning how to spot a lie, how to find the weak wire that can bring the whole system crashing down. That night, I didn't sleep. I tore apart every document they'd handed me. Within hours, I found metadata linking their survey maps to a program literally called MapFaker Pro. The seals they used were copied and rotated from a government website. Their GPS coordinates were so wrong the whole development would have landed in Lake Superior. It was all fake. But, proving it wasn't enough, I needed to stop them. At 3 in the morning, I was sitting in the dark with a pot of coffee that could strip paint, wondering if I'd already lost. Maybe they were right. Maybe I was just clinging to something I couldn't keep. The house was old, the neighborhood didn't care about me, and the people with power had already signed deals behind my back. For a moment, I thought about packing a bag and disappearing. Start over somewhere else. But then, I saw Mary's photograph on the mantel. Her smile, her eyes, the life we'd built here, and I realized walking away would be the real betrayal. By sunrise, I had a plan. What Karen and her cronies didn't know was that my cabin sat on the original utility easement for the entire neighborhood. Every wire, every water line, they all ran through my property, and I had legal rights to shut them down for emergency maintenance. So that's exactly what I did. That evening, the sun set on Pine Ridge and I flipped a single switch. The entire neighborhood plunged into darkness, except for one house, the so-called abandoned property at the edge of the subdivision. Its windows were blazing with light, sucking stolen power through an illegal cable I'd discovered earlier. Curiosity got the better of me. I crept through the woods with my flashlight, peered through the boarded windows, and froze. Inside was a high-tech operation straight out of a cybercrime thriller. Servers humming, monitors glowing, and on those screens, videos. Dozens of them, each one showing residents agreeing to sell their properties. Except they weren't real. They were deepfakes. Karen wasn't just forging signatures, she was manufacturing entire video confessions. She'd created digital puppets of elderly homeowners and was using them to steal land house by house. My chest tightened. It wasn't just me. 46 other families were about to be erased the same way, and if I didn't act, they'd never stand a chance. I started snapping photos through the window, documenting every screen, every file directory. I even caught my own face on one of the monitors, me supposedly signing away my cabin. That was the final straw. Then it happened. Their backup generator kicked in after my blackout caused an overload, and the whole place blew sky high. Flames erupted, smoke filled the sky, and I stood there in the shadows watching firefighters scramble. Papers flew everywhere. Bank records, fake contracts, even letters tying Karen to someone named Vincent. Organized crime. This wasn't just a neighborhood scam. It was bigger, dirtier, and far more dangerous than I'd realized. The next morning, Karen doubled down. She marched police officers to my door accusing me of sabotage, arson, and God knows what else. They had a warrant, they searched my house, and for a second I thought maybe she'd finally beaten me. I poured Detective Clark a cup of coffee and told him, "Go ahead. Look anywhere you like." What Karen didn't know was that I'd already moved the real evidence to Frank's place, my 85-year-old neighbor who'd been keeping government records longer than I'd been alive. He had the documents proving the lake was a federally protected preserve. He had my photos of her deepfake lab, and he had something even I didn't know about years of surveillance footage from cameras I'd forgotten I installed recording Karen's backyard meetings. When Frank showed me those tapes, Karen, Rick, and county officials openly talking about bribes and fake contracts, I knew the game had changed. We didn't just have suspicion anymore, we had proof. We set up a live stream. It wasn't pretty. Frank's laptop was older than some of my tools, but it worked. We started showing everything: the fake maps, the signatures, the deepfakes. At first, just a handful of neighbors tuned in, then hundreds, then thousands. By the time Karen stormed onto Frank's lawn with her hired goons, over 10,000 people were watching. She screamed at us to shut it down. One of her thugs waved a metal pipe in my face, growling about how I should mind my business before I get hurt. But the camera was rolling and the internet doesn't miss a beat. And then the unthinkable happened. Rick, the Realtor, stepped forward and dropped the act. "My name is Special Agent Rick Peaton, FBI," he announced straight into the webcam. "And I've been undercover for 2 years." The live stream exploded. Comments flew by faster than I could read them. Karen's face went pale, her knees almost buckling as agents swarmed from the trees. But even cornered, she couldn't keep her mouth shut. She started ranting, confessing about the money laundering, the mob connections, the multi-state fraud. Every word recorded, every viewer a witness. By the time the cuffs went on, she'd basically written her own indictment. I watched it all unfold in real time. My cabin was gone, reduced to ash from the fire she started, but it didn't matter. Because in that moment, Karen's empire crumbled. And I realized something I should have known from the start: power only works when people stay silent. Never let anyone scare you into giving up what's right.